Welcome back to my bridge run-through of Guild Wars 1 Factions, a highlight of the story and major locations of this region of the world in anticipation for the Guild Wars 2 expansion due out. So, in the previous part, we became Wayno Su, and we can now see and hopefully interact with, we took the first step to dealing with and fighting against the big bad Shiro Tagachi, who seems to have been the cause of this plague and affliction that is, in this rather vulnerable area of the world. So that's a pretty big road moment for us. I was going to say roadblock, milestone for us. We can now change our secondary profession in theory. We can get access to a lot of new skills. We actually now get to go to some new areas of the city that I really like, and we haven't actually got to explore or talk about much. But there's the Zhangwang Skyway, and beneath it, the Undercity. So the Undercity does not appear on the world map here because the way that Guild Wars 1 organized things, it was like a dungeon underneath. Now, what was fun about the way that Factions did things was you could go to the Undercity for a while. Several quests took you there. You could learn about the Ampha, messing with the Affliction, and I'd love to see a storyline like that come forward with Guild Wars 2. And it's only now, after you've done a couple of missions in the city, that finally you get to come out onto the Skyway. I want to give you Guild Wars 2 players a good impression, by the way, of just how big the city was. Now, this might be a terrible comparison, or it might be a really fun one, but I always think of it a lot like Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when you're there, you're spending a long time there. The devs don't shy away from having you see these same kinds of buildings and experiences for hours and hours and hours and hours. What they're kind of doing is they give you a taste of nice green, lush areas, and then they plunge you into the crap for ages. It took a long time to get the Zhangwang Skyway, and still we've got a good amount of city content left as well before we finally get out to lovely green grounds over here at this place called the Pongmei Valley. But so yeah, I won't show you guys the whole map. This was the location of another cool area of the city, though, this burned down section. The location of those vermin. You saw I actually drafted one of those cards earlier in the series, and I've always just liked the idea of this place being particularly combustible. A great fire that sweeps through the city would be a cool plot point for Guild Wars 2, wouldn't it? I don't know, especially with that story about how the previous palace burned down in an empire divided. That would be so fun. And hey, the Fire Elder Dragon is still around. I've always liked the idea that the concluding stories of Guild Wars 2 are to do with that. But hey, I don't know, maybe this will be more of a water thing. Anyway, let's move on. The next mission is going to be Tanakai Temple. It's fairly basic to get here, to be honest, as we progressed along. Now that we are Wayno Su close to the stars and we can kind of see and interact with Shiro as an envoy, there's kind of a suggestion that this allows us to commune to a greater degree with many of the spirits around as well, which of course Canthans have great reverence for. And we come here to this temple for that specific reason. So let's check this out. For centuries, Tanakai Temple has housed the souls of Cantha's most revered heroes. The bravest and most accomplished members of each profession rest here, tended by priests of the Sai Ling order. Ornate statues line the great halls, each a stunning likeness of the hero it represents. These magnificent effigies, sculpted by Kurzik artisans, are enchanted with protective magic that guards the temple and its inhabitants from harm. So why are we here? Well, Brother Kai Zhong says, we of the Sailing Order are the caretakers of the Tanakai Temple. We tend the fires and keep the tombs and statues free of dust. There is not much else to worry us here. We receive few visitors aside from the Emperor's yearly visit or the nobles who make offerings hoping to earn a hero's favor. No one is admitted without a royal seal. Of course, only those who haven't become Wayno Su or close to the stars can actually speak to the heroes entombed here. The Emperor himself, and only one or two others. So this is like a crucial paragraph here. I suggested in a recent video that being able to interact with the spirit of Master Togo might be a fun thing in Guild Wars 2. But unless we're Wayno Su, that doesn't necessarily have to be a thing. And yeah, you can kind of get this sense that being close to the stars really means having some connection to the afterlife, some connection to the envoys and the dead, right? So why have I come to Tanakai Temple? After becoming close to the stars, you learned of Tanakai Temple, where the souls of Canthan heroes rest. Shiro has been raising a spirit army. The former heroes will make powerful allies if bound to his will. So yes, Shiro is not just wandering around making people sick. He is actively recruiting proper soldiers for himself and heroes along his side, binding them to his will. And these are the bound constructs. These are of the sorts that we saw way back when now at the Vizina Square, the final boss. I actually love that we saw one in this mission, And then the next mission didn't have any, and now we kind of return back to that storyline. So, we've got to deal with that. What's the situation inside? Shiro has arrived and is strengthening his army by binding the spirits of Canthan heroes held within the hall. Only Vizu has been able to hold out, but the binding ritual on the others is not complete. Togo believes that Vizu possesses critical information regarding Shiro. It's kind of funny. Some of you guys might be comparing the idea of binding a spirit to what we see Revenants doing in Guild Wars 2. And obviously the irony is that in Guild Wars 2, the commander can actually summon and commune with Shiro himself. I'm at a loss. Can you help me? There's some tips. The strategy guide will give us some of those. Let's check out the cinematic.
I knew you would come.
Did you?
You're not the type to give up on a grudge.
You're right.
What is it you want?
Want? From you? Just a little revenge.
Last time we met, I beat you, Shiro. I will beat you again!
It's different this time. This time, I'm facing you.
That's actually a great line, considering they're both assassins. And the idea of stalking people and killing unseen.
You can't kill me, Shiro. I'm already dead.
I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to force you to be my ally. To fight by my side.
You'll have to catch me first.
You coward. Last time you stabbed me in the back. This time you run. I shall reserve for you a special torture. One for the weak and the honorless.
So this is the main idea, that he's gone to the temple, ransacked it for spirits, and the spirit that actually one of the three that was responsible for defeating him way back when is holding out. And we've got to get in there and we've got to try and save the day before it's too late. This is, speaking of which, this is us arriving a bit later. Ah, doesn't that make you feel warm inside? God, this whole city was so nasty always. It looks like you're in a sewer, even when you're not. I love that little rat there, by the way. Guild Wars 1 rarely went to the effort of putting small details in like that.
Come. The spirit of Vizu resides in this hall. It was her blade strike that crippled Shiro 200 years ago and eventually led to his death. If anyone can tell us how to defeat him, it will be her. Follow me.
Keep up if you can. Master Togo is faster than he looks.
And I like that idea as well, that he looks elderly and weak or whatever, but he's really not. So yeah, that's really the idea of the mission. Let's just get on in now. And, oh, by the way, actually, one other thing I wanted to see on the recruit page for henchmen. Yes, very, very cool. You can actually recruit Nika into this mission. As an assassin henchman, it's always a bit of a dodgy proposition, honestly. And by the way, guys, I've probably already demonstrated in this series just how easy the balance is to get thrown out of whack in Guild Wars 1. If you're looking for something quite authentic as an experience, you want to make in 2020, you can still do that. Make a new character, don't sequence break, make sure you only get skills that have actually become available to you as you play through the campaign, and use henchmen, not heroes. If you do that, you know, the builds that these henchmen have, though there's no way of previewing them, they are, you know, as they were originally designed, with some minor balance changes, I believe, over the years, to actually tackle these missions. That's actually a good example, by the way, of where balance became quite unwieldy in Guild Wars 1. Say you change the functionality of a skill, and there's a henchman at a random outpost that uses that skill. You now have to go in and edit that henchman's AI or remove it from the bar, because otherwise they're not going to use it correctly and so on. That happened a lot in Guild Wars 1. Let's see, where are they? So yeah, you got kind of the two rings of characters here, and they've started to blend together. Look, Sin and Devonna are here. Oh no, they haven't blended together. Never mind. But here we got Nika, and she'll actually talk to you. And it's her ancestor that we're really chasing to try and save here. It's a fun idea to take her into your team. Right, so let's just run on in. And we can talk a little bit about what the devs wrote in the strategy guide and get through this mission. Cheeky little cut there. I actually did a couple of full starts as I was tweaking my skill bar. Finding the balance of being able to spam enough, but also not run out of energy is weird. I made another change to the team. My Necromancer healer is actually now using Blood is Power, just to try and keep more energy up on me. Which means she'll do basically no damage now. I don't know whether the trade-off is really worthwhile. And I'm using Mistrust. You saw we just absolutely devastated those Temple Guardians there. This is a really cool mission in that it does have those Temple Guardian creatures in it. You don't find them really anywhere else in Cantha, I don't think. They're pretty powerful elementalists, and they were cards that I was looking forward to drawing. But I don't think we actually managed to find any anymore in the end. But they're basically fire ellies, and there's actually some dangerous chambers here. I would say, though, this is the first mission of the game that probably I don't have much respect for. I don't think was designed that well. All the other ones had interesting takes to them and ideas. This one is just a long corridor, and it's broken into these little rooms over and over and over again. And yes, sometimes you find like a unique, different situation in any given room, like this one here. Oh, there's 3 groups at the end of 3 bridges, but you're just moving in a linear way, killing a boss every couple of seconds. That's basically it. What's even worse is the whole gimmick of this mission is you're on a time limit, okay? If you look up there on the top left, it says time remaining until Vizu is bound by the Spirit Binder. So that's Shiro trying to kill Vizu. If you run out of time, you fail the mission. The thing is, all faction missions kind of have that time pressure element anyway because of the additional rewards you get from completing them quickly. They never did proper bonus objectives like they did in Prophecies. They're all just time trials, really. And then this mission just says, okay, it's a time trial, but that was kind of a side to all of them anyway. Even worse, they made this a time trial mission. This is actually an area of the world with so much lore and setting and world building that's fantastic. And players miss because they're on a time limit, so you feel forced to rush. So there's a huge amount of dialogue going on right now, as you can see with Togo and Menlo as they're discussing Shiro, the threat, what might be happening, what he's looking for. All the spirits that we free by defeating their constructs, so here's bound Tenai. Tenai's spirit will come out and talk to us. There's all of that. And every single spirit here has like a little statue, a little podium that you can interact with that gives you some backstory. If you remember in the previous video, we had that information about Tamu, the dragon, and it had that story. Well, there's like 8 of them here, 1 for each of the playable professions as far as factions was concerned, and they're all really good. This is where you hear the story about Balthazar losing a game and getting mad and killing a guy for it, just straight up murdering a guy, which actually led into a lot of his character in Guild Wars 2. And you hear lots of other fun things about the Tengu Wars. This one here, you're reading about demons. It's brilliant. And then you can actually speak to all the various spirits as well after they've been freed for even more dialogue. Some of the spirits here as well, by the way, have skills named after them, which is very fun. So there's so much going on, and then ArenaNet made it a time trial mission, which is just lazy, first of all, but also completely conflicts with the pace that you'd want to take this. It's not the first time they make a mistake like that as well. In Nightfall, they make another similar crime, making a giant boss arena also a place with loads of lore. But if you kill the bosses first, then you don't get the lore. It's ridiculous. In any case, I really don't have too much trouble with this mission until the end, which I should never, ever, ever have any trouble with this mission, but you'll see what happens when we get there. It really is quite funny. Moving over to the strategy guide, the devs say, for centuries, Tanakai Temple has housed the souls of the most revered heroes of Cantha's Dragon Age. That's what they say, the Dragon Age. The Jade Wind felled many, and others died fighting other evils, but whatever the cause of the death, the soul of the bravest and most accomplished member of each profession rests here, tended by priests of the Siling Order. I'd love to see the Siling Order come back. Now that the heroes have become closer to the stars, they can speak to these spirits and learn if there's any way to truly defeat Shiro. But Shiro isn't waiting around to be defeated. He's released spirit binders, powerful constructs from his demonic army that can trap even the most heroic soul in torment, turning a fallen hero into a deadly enemy. The heroes must fight past increasingly powerful bound spirits until they reach Vizu, an assassin who witnessed Shiro's original crimes and the end of his mortal life. If the heroes cannot reach Vizu before time runs out, Shiro will enslave her and the rest of the Dragon Age heroes, reinforcing his growing construct army. So then the guide goes into rehashing basic information we already know about Menlo and the Afflicted and stuff. But here's something quite cool. Unlike in the other mission where they just copy-pasted the in-game lore, This time for all the heroes, they give a brief description of each one, which I'll go through with you guys. So first there's Bound Kaolai, the Ritualist. Kaolai is one of the most ancient heroic souls in Tanakai, a ritualist who died so long ago that he only speaks ancient Canthan. He is believed to have been killed and subsequently placed within the temple after he won a bet with hot-tempered Balthazar. So that's the big character for the Balthazar story. And yeah, they mention ancient Canthan there as well. There is this idea of a whole other language they speak, and you actually can hear them saying it here in this mission if you pay attention to the dialogue in the background. You've got Zojin, the ranger, the bold and charismatic ranger, famously led a bestial army against a dark wizard 5 centuries earlier and saved the forests of Cantha from destruction. There was Jaigenzu, I'm probably not saying that right, that's the warrior hero here, who once offered her life to the Emperor to atone for the insult of tardiness. Jaigenzu slew thousands of enemies, defending the weak and powerless before falling in battle. Karai, the monk, this legendary monk, was made master of the Kaizin Monastery about 700 years ago. It said that Dwayna herself ensconced Karai's soul in the temple as a reward for his boundless generosity. Tenai, the Elementalist. Tenai is actually one of the more difficult chambers, by the way. Once an Elementalist of great renown, she's believed to have inducted herself into the temple on the strength of her magic alone. Necromancer Naku, the most recent inductee, used every last piece of Necromancer magic, including his soul, to destroy the Tengu who murdered his hometown. That was a fun short story. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, all of these are in the main series I did. Kita the Mesmer, 300 years ago, Kita the Mesmer sacrificed her own life to defeat a warrior princess. Both are enshrined in Tanakai. And finally, Vizu, the assassin. If not for Vizu's skill and quick wits, Shiro Tagachi might well have succeeded in becoming all-powerful 200 years ago. But how did she stop him? And can she do so again? Freeing Vizu to share her knowledge is the ultimate goal of this mission. And they go on to give us some tips and hints, which we don't have to worry about too much because we're just kind of slaughtering our way through, and they don't have any special tips and hints anyway, since, you know, the whole game is pretty much be careful to pull. This mission can be a threat. Particularly, there's a lot of high-powered enemies. So you do want to, like, for example, in this chamber that I'm moving into here, I'm going to flag everyone back, capture the guys on the right, and then try to pull them back so that I can fight these guys separately. What's really tricky playing solo, though, is Togo and Menlo aren't a part of my party, so they don't adhere to my flags. So what you'll notice happened there is they ran forwards on their own, with me, and they've just aggroed all this other stuff and got themselves hurt as well. The afflicted monks are using Ray of Judgment, which is really big AoE damage, and they just don't move out. Ray of Judgment is one of those beautiful examples of what I love about Guild Wars 1. That whole thing of enemies using player skills. They could have such good combat, so interesting. And the monks are a special case to me always, because when factions came out, Ray of Judgment was not the skill it ultimately became. Nowadays, you look at it as this giant laser beam of light that does massive pulse damage and burning in an area. It's a huge nuke ability, an iconic nuke ability that you want to stay the hell away from. And because nearly every single time you find Afflicted, they have a monk with them, it means that defines a lot of like what I think of when I think Cantha and factions now. I think of those Ray of Judgment laser beams. But that isn't how the devs initially designed any of this, because Ray of Judgment originally wasn't doing that, and it wasn't an elite skill that you ever really thought about at all until they remade it. I just think that there could be such a good RPG built out of that stuff. I imagine a version of Guild Wars 1 where it's a little bit more single-player oriented maybe, or like up to 4-man party sizes instead of 8. Maybe a little bit more limited on the number of skills you had, and maybe more precise in what skills do what, so that they all have bigger effects. And you keep that idea of enemies having player skills, and you keep the idea of how much variety there is. So, you know, when I run into this ranger here, I can really feel the difference of fighting a ranger versus fighting a temple guardian. And then when balance patches come out, think about how exciting and cool that is, and how much the game would change. Of course, then you need reward schemes to layer on top of that, and players who want to basically play through the campaigns rather than ferret away into whatever you decide Endgame is. I'll get a little bit off track here. Guild Wars 1 kind of did that with its whole booking system, though, I will say. Okay, so here's where the mission gets really interesting. I'm at Vizu now. This is the final chamber. And I'm going to wipe. Almost. So, I aggro everything. way too much. Even the Ritualist way back there is actually healing and rezzing people. So, and I've got everyone balled up on this little bridge. Look at this Ray of Judgment come down here. We're getting clipped by it. People are dying, and they don't have the energy to use We Shall Return. So I'm definitely going to have to tweak the comp that I've made here. I actually died here against this final boss, and admittedly a really reckless positioning. So I was really scared, right? I have both Togo and Menlo alive. If either of them die, it's a wipe. Everyone else can die and it's fine. So if I had in my inventory a Scroll of Resurrection, I could probably get around this. But it wasn't in the rules for the drafting to be able to use consumables, so I got rid of all of them. I don't have any. So if I'm going to beat this, I have to beat it on my own, plus with the help of whatever Togo and Menlo do. So I re-engage real quick because I noticed that some of them have come out, but not all of them. So if I can kill these separate, I have a bit of a chance. And in particular, I wanted to do this fast because that warrior was low. I didn't want the warrior leashing back into the middle of the chamber and getting his health back later. They don't rapidly regenerate in that kind of tacky way that the sequel game does. So that wouldn't necessarily have been such a thing. But so, yeah, I basically try and cleave through them. Now, I learned a couple of things doing this. Togo is not just a defensive character as a ritualist. He actually has some damage on him. He's using Spirit Rift, for example, which is like a massive amount of damage on a huge delay. So he is actually contributing a good amount of damage. And my build is ludicrously overpowered too. So he actually managed to take 3 out. That was like a 3v3 there. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't need to kill everything in this area. All I have to do is get Vizu, right? So there's a thing with Guild Wars 1 aggroing where they are actually in parties. And that's important for the design of certain skills, but also the way the AI works. If you aggro one member of a party, usually the rest of the enemies in that party will come too, even if you didn't necessarily aggro them. You know, they'll respond to the aggro radius of their friends. So I'm wondering who's in the party with Vizu. And well, what do you know? Vizu's actually on her own, or bound Vizu, I should say, is actually on her own. So we just got to get her to a point where we can fight her. You can see the AI is trying to move her back. So I'm going to have to do it on the bridge. And I find that sweet spot and just start hitting her. So the main skill here that's going to be important is, yes, I've got some characters that will heal a little bit, but she can be very dangerous. She's a boss. She's level 24. She's got a lot of power behind her. I need to keep her knocked down with You Move Like a Dwarf. And if I see a skill that I can interrupt, I'm going to use Cry of Frustration to try and get it. I sort of missed that there. She loses heart when she's low, but I knock her down on her way out again. And we actually managed to take her out. So that's the boss dead. That's all my skills recharged. If I had a res sig, I could have started resing and stuff now, but I don't have that. Maybe that's what I should put on the next episode. And I'm expecting the cutscene now. I'm expecting a cutscene. Well, there is not one. Turns out I actually have to beat all of them. It's funny because in the last video, I was talking about in the pre-quarter with you guys and how you have to, how you could, if you wanted, rush that last boss. It's not the same on this mission, apparently. On this mission, you do genuinely have to take out everything in the center here. But I'm feeling bold now. I never would have tried this if I knew ahead of time that I had to kill all of them. But now I'm feeling like I might be able to. I mean, I got the boss. I won 3 of them. So these guys we can fight here without having to take the back view. And just in case you're looking at that minimap right now thinking, oh my god, this is going to take ages, WP. Not really, because a lot of those dots on the far bridges, they are guardians that temple guardians that are not a part of this. I don't have to aggro those ever. All I got to do is take out this ritualist, this monk, and this is it an Ellie I'm fighting at the same time right now? But once they're dead, I can get those 4 that are patrolling around the back, and that's it. It's over. In fact, one of those might even be a spirit back there. It's really not too bad. The main risk here is these Ray of Judgment. Like, look at this. Look at Ray of Judgment come down on Togo and Menlo, and they eat about 3 ticks before the AI kicks in to have them move. It's easy to get mad at that, but I wouldn't actually accuse ArenaNet of having bad AI or being negligent there, because again, you have to consider that AI is probably what they're using on enemies as well. And if they had AI that had them instantly move out of all AoEs right away, well, that invalidates quite a lot of stuff, to be honest. If you're playing an Ellie, for example, with these big, slow, long cast times and these AoEs, and the mobs the whole way through the game are super reactive to moving out of them, well, that kind of sucks. So, you know, if the enemies don't get the luxury of moving instantly, I can understand why our allies often don't get the luxury of moving instantly. So this is interesting. I got to kill the ranger on his own, but he actually dazed me. And then the other ranger back there threw a stonehead arrow at me as well. Sorry, a broadhead arrow at me as well. And that dazed me. So this daze is very, very bad, especially combined with the Mesmer's elite skill. Was that an elite that I was thrown with? Essentially, it's going to double my cast times, and if I eat any physical damage while I'm casting, I'll get interrupted. Daze is a really cool condition. Guild Wars 2 doesn't have much of an equivalent to that I can think of off the top of my head right now. So anyway, he keeps dazing me, and I've got to like time my abilities between his so that I'm not getting interrupted. And with him down, by the way, I'm getting chocolate bunnies because I'm actually recording this at Easter. I know in the previous video I already mentioned that we're at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. But if anyone else wanted even more insight into exactly when I'm recording this, it's Easter 2020. And I could actually eat that, couldn't I? I think it'd give me a bit of movement speed. But there you go. A really fast, easy mission that drawn out at the end. Oh my god, it worked. I still got Master anyway, just because I flew through the first bit of it so much. That still, even with that long bit at the end, was only 3 minutes longer than the previous mission.
Though I knew someday Shiro would return. I wish secretly this day would never come. I recognize you. The Emperor has spoken to me of his half-brother, the man known as Master Togo. Tell me what you desire. If it's within my power, you shall have it.
200 years ago, on the day of the Jade Wind, you bested Shiro. We have come to you to learn how to do the same.
Yes, it was my blade that finally turned the tide of battle on that day. But it was not me who struck the final blow. If you wish to destroy Shiro, you must find the Luxon champion Archimedes and the Cursed hero Victor, the two men who struck him down all those years ago.
Where do we find them?
The Luxons honor their great champion by keeping his spirit in a powerful spear, which passes between the clans. The Kurziks guard the urn of their hero with a vigorous zeal. Seek out these two artifacts, for if you have them both, the spirits inside can show you how to defeat Shiro.
Thank you, Vizu. It has been my honor to talk with you. I wish our visit could have been longer.
Do not worry on such things, Togo. There will be plenty of time for us to talk once Shiro has been defeated. You can count on that.
Man, is she Belgamine? I guess her voice actress. Those last cryptic lines there, those of you who know the story of factions will understand what they're foreshadowing and talking about on that one. We'll deal more with it in a second, but we get another flashback to 200 years ago, where, as you'll notice, the city looks much the same. I guess that's just because they don't want to build new sets.
You have returned. Good, good. Sit. I shall tell you your future. The Emperor has his eye on you.
Me? Why would the Emperor be watching me?
Your good work has not gone unnoticed. He thinks you are trustworthy and brave.
But what does it mean? Why is he watching?
You, Shiro, will be rewarded for your service. You shall be singled out for something very important.
When?
Soon. Very soon.
And the irony there is she's actually the one singling him out. We're up at the palace now, which you guys haven't seen.
You have served me well, warrior.
Thank you, my Emperor.
A man of your considerable fighting prowess should play a more important role in the Cantha Empire, don't you think?
My lord?
Why should your talents be spent defending the merchants from bandit raids, when they could be put to a better use?
I do not fully understand.
Rise, Shiro Tagachi, and take your place beside me as my personal bodyguard.
So, we see him talking to Aang Cyan. I think Aang Cyan is such a cool name for an emperor, by the way. He looks in-game just like Kisu, the current emperor, but hey, what are you going to do? They obviously didn't have time to make a whole other type of emperor just for, is it that one cutscene? Maybe a couple? Yeah, it's definitely a couple of cutscenes. But anyway, so yeah, we learn about Shiro becoming the bodyguard. Now, let's talk about the other two great heroes. We're now going to try and find them. And I've always found it interesting how the Luxons had a spear while the Kurziks were singing their songs with their anthems and the chants and stuff. And the two of them, they basically make up the idea of the Paragon for the next campaign. It's kind of... I'm sure that the devs weren't actually aiming for anything with that, but it feels so funny to look back at it. So, yes, we get to choose which... Oh, no, we don't actually get to choose which one we go for first. We just immediately end up at Arborstone is our next mission, which I will talk all about in the next part. There's going to be quite a lot of stuff to go through there because it's us leaving the city, it's us in kind of neutral territory, and then entering the Echo-Vowed Forest, which should be pretty fun. Players also had the choice at this point, by the way, to enter some of the endgame areas. I know that seems kind of strange, but at this point in the game, you were level 20, you could pick any secondary profession you like if you'd unlocked it. And so the devs basically said, well, look, if you want to play the end game stuff, you can now. And so this location that we're now at, the Zinku Corridor outpost, kind of doubled as an entry point to the underworld and the Fissure of Woe. So, for example, if I actually kneel down here at the statue of Balthazar, as long as the world has favor, I think that mechanic... maybe that mechanic doesn't matter anymore. The champion of Balthazar will appear, and I can actually pay a platinum to go into the end game stuff. I never actually played factions at a time where this outpost was trafficked and being used for that. But I guess what the devs had in mind was players who had bought factions but never had prophecies. That was a big part of the business model, that people could do that comfortably. And for any factions exclusive people who wanted endgame areas, they could come here. The devs never did end up running with this, though. They never implemented the other god realms, and in the end it kind of didn't matter. They did another one at Nightfall too, but mostly people just used the one in Prophecies at the Temple of the Aegis. Most people who bought one campaign ended up having the Prophecies one, and that was the real hub for it. But this place was pretty nice as well, and has a cool description about how once upon a time this was on the outskirts of the city on a hill, and now the city has overwhelmed the entire thing. So yeah, that's pretty much the story there for this mission and what we learned. So we're going to figure out how to take out Shiro by looking for the other two great champions that actually did the deed. That, again, you can watch in the trailer. I'll see you guys for the Echo-Vowed Forest next time.